I just finished my PhD! Subject to minor corrections. And while I was writing my PhD, I spent 4 years teaching in the English department. Yes, we do have an English department. And I realised the other day that may have been too long. Because I was in Guildford and I saw something that utterly appalled me. I saw some racist graffiti. And I was disgusted by this. But I then realised that one of the reasons I was disgusted was because it was incorrectly spelled. It actually said, "fuck off, Nigers." And I thought, and it really upset me. But because I work in the English department and every text is subject to interpretation, I thought, that's not a piece of racist graffiti. It's actually a message left by a very posh woman who's had an argument with her boyfriend Nigel. Anyway, yes, I've just finished my PhD, and believe it or not, I have a PhD in comedy. I am, in fact, a comedy doctor. Yay! And because of that, what I thought I'd do is I would teach you some humour theory, so you can laugh in a knowing, academic, English department kind of way. And what we will do, we will start with Raskin's tripartite classification. Open brackets, 1995, comma, space, 31 to 35, close brackets. My jokes aren't funny, but they're incredibly well referenced. Raskin's tripartite classification. 3 traditions of the philosophy that explain why things are funny. Number 1, superiority theory, which goes back to Thomas Hobbes, who wrote Leviathan in 1650, which I'm sure you've all read, in which he said that laughter is the sudden awareness of the eminence in ourselves compared with the infirmity of others. Not a happy man, Thomas Hobbes. Example, George Bush once said, the problem with the French is they have no word for entrepreneur. Eminence of ourselves, infirmity. Number 2 in Raskin's tripartite classification is incongruity theory. That goes back to Immanuel Kant, who in 1780 wrote the Critique of Judgment, which I'm sure you've all read, in which he said that laughter is strained expectation into nothingness. Example, here is my stepladder. It's not my real ladder. Strained expectation. Okay, number 3 in Raskin's tripartite classification, and there will be a test afterwards, is release or relief theory, which goes back to Sigmund Freud. Well, it goes back a bit earlier, but minor corrections, so what do I know? And Sigmund Freud, who wrote a book in 1900 called Jokes and Their Relationship to the Unconscious, which I'm sure you've all read. It's argued that we developed a sense of humour to find a socially acceptable way of dealing with the taboo, dealing with those things we are most scared of: death, violence, pain, sleeping with our mothers, all those kind of things. Example, how do you make a dog drink? Put it in a blender. Okay, that's Raskin's tripartite classification. We'll now move on to modern developments. Starting with number 1, neuroscience. There is a report, a study done by the University of Toronto, which drew parallels between chemicals produced in the brain between when the body laughs and when the body orgasms. So I emailed the University of Toronto and I asked them if they wanted any slightly overweight middle-aged men as research participants. Apparently not. Number 2 in modern developments is evolutionary psychology. There's a professor called Geoffrey Miller who argued that we developed a sense of humour as a way of signalling to a potential mate that we were intelligent, that we could understand jokes, that there was an evolutionary advantage in mating with us. So basically anyone that laughed at the stepladder joke, you're basically signaling to the room, you're up for it. Anyway, on that moment I shall move to a finish with advice for scientists from the humanities. Advice for scientists. Never, never, never share a flat with a philosopher. Particularly a philosopher who specialises in 19th century German philosophy. And that is because they never hoover up. And they never hoover up because they believe that Nietzsche abhors a vacuum. And that is the best philosophy science pun you will ever hear. And on that note, I should say thank you. I've been Dr. Almost Subject to Minor Corrections, Tim Miles, and you've been lovely. Thank you very much. Good night.